Hello, this is Mad Cat, and welcome to another edition of Boobs and Dicks Smash the Matriarchy. And this is a very special episode because not only is it International Men's Day tomorrow, but we also have two special guests with us today. So let's go ahead and start the show as I am Dix.
And I'm Boobs. What's up?
Today we have Prentice Reed and Egregious Charles. How are you two doing today?
Doing great.
I'm doing well.
All right, and let's start with you, Prentice. Would you like to say a few words about yourself to let people know who you are?
Well, for those who don't know me, I'm an informal researcher. I've been researching gender issues since at least about 2011. Men's issues, gender politics, how we're manipulated as far as, the history of male and female relations, the policies and governmental policies that affect men and women, the big events historically that have shaped how men and women relate to each other down to the modern age, some of the key figures in gender political history, and cultural history in general. Also, I'm a foremost researcher in politics as well. I've been examining a lot of the deceptions behind how we've been misled in terms of divide and conquer, pitting white and black people against each other. Basically, the shell game that a lot of the Democrats play, the Republicans sometimes, different presidents. And just in terms of my life in general, I'm a war veteran. I come from the slums, one of the toughest neighborhoods in the United States. So I've lived a lot, seen a lot, interact with a lot of incredibly intelligent people online who also feed me a lot of valuable information, a lot of credible, like-minded people like yourself, Chris. And so that's basically my background. And what I've been doing throughout the years is I've been, subscribing to different newspaper archives, magazine archives, and stuff like that, and basically uncovering a lot of the information that's been buried in these various areas and making it available to the public for free. And I've been paying for that out of my own pocket, just simply because I'm interested in it myself, and because I've just noticed how it helps other people and how it's a great building block for incredibly deep conversations. So that's me. And I'll go ahead and pass the mic.
Well, thank you for that, and I thank you for calling me intelligent also, but I always enjoy your posts on Facebook. The majority of the articles we discuss on this channel is because of you and all of the great posts. So if you're ever on Facebook, look up Prentice Reed the Third, which I think is just his third account. But and Charles, would you like to say a little bit about yourself, Charles?
Sure. I'm a consultant computer programmer in my 40s. I go through life trying to make other people's lives better to a great degree, and I got tired of being automatically demonized for being male while doing it. And that's kind of what led me to the men's rights movement.
Awesome.
And for those who don't know, Charles is actually my roommate. He's like 10 feet away from me right now, although there are like a series of doors between us, so we can't see each other.
Yeah.
But
well, you get to live with someone who's in the men's rights movement and who you can talk to about these subjects, and who you don't have to feel like, you know, you have to be someone else around. I mean, that's incredible.
well, yeah, Charles really challenges me a lot, and there are a number of things that we disagree on, which is fantastic because there are just times he proves me wrong on a lot of my understandings of the world. And that was one of the reasons why I really wanted him on this show, not only for the men's rights, but because he has such a great mind. Okay. And I'm sure he's
I can tell
right now an embarrassment, but
I can tell.
Thank you very much.
I can tell he's had a positive impact on the way you think, because I've actually seen you go through the changes in the time you've been on my friends list, and you know, I could see the byproducts of some of the conversations you guys must be having.
Yeah. Well, certainly I hope you two get to know each other as well, because, you know, it's like, and this will sound so silly and I apologize, but it's like the two of you are like the biggest male influences in my life right now. And I feel like you two really help shape me. So the two of you meeting right now is kind of like a big deal for me. And oh God, I just feel so weird saying that.
That's an honor. That's an honor. And I'd be more than happy to have some engaging conversations with him and befriend him like I have you and so many other people who just you know, they always have something thought-provoking to talk about. I mean, even if it's just, you know, small talk and it's just, you know, hey, I experienced this as a man, or you know, or even as a woman, you know, I experienced this and I can relate to what you're saying, or, you know, this is somewhat similar, or, you know, I've seen this or done this. And I mean, it just helps you feel like you're not some alien or some weirdo, you know, or you're not the only person on this planet who feels this way, you know, and that's so priceless as men and as human beings in general. A lot of people don't have those sort of friends that they can talk about those important topics with, especially men after we graduate. You know, a lot of our friendship circles break down, and, you know, once we get married or get into relationships, we start cutting off our friends and family. And that's what leads to the high suicide rate in men, because we tend to bottle things up for a variety of reasons, and it ends up eating us up inside. And I think that's incredibly unfair. And it's not just society's fault. We do it to ourselves too.
I definitely agree with that. And before we really start getting into conversations, I do want to get through some of the introductory stuff first, and then we can go ahead and get right into these conversations, which I'm really looking forward to. So I hate to cut it right at this point, but I really need to. So let me go ahead and start my screen share. So first, I want to give a shout out for the Red Pill movie that I'm trying to host in Philadelphia on December 8th. Still got about 50 tickets that I need to sell in order for the event to go live. So I want to just put that out there for anyone. If you're in Philadelphia or any of the surrounding states, definitely check this out. We are going to have Hannah Wallen do a Q&A after the showing, and we plan to go to IHOP next door afterwards. So
awesome.
It'll be a great event.
Yeah, I'll be getting 2 tickets myself on the 1st. I can't, I've promised myself I can't buy anything else this paycheck, but next paycheck, because I'm an Amazon addict, Amazon.com addict. So next paycheck, I'll definitely be getting 2 tickets myself.
Well, it's greatly appreciated. All right, so International Men's Day, which is tomorrow, November 19th. And I want to read this short little paragraph before moving on to my year in review. We welcome you to International Men's Day global website. Objectives of International Men's Day include a focus on men's and boys' health, improving gender relations, promoting gender equality, and highlighting positive male role models. It's an occasion for men to celebrate their achievement and contributions, in particular their contributions to community, family, marriage, and childcare, while highlighting the discriminations against them. The theme for 2016 is Stop Male Suicide. In every country, bar China, where it's approximately equal the suicide rate, the suicide rate is worse than men everywhere else in the world. Then women, and average out a country average on the country basis, the rate of suicide for men is up to 3 times that of women. In Russia, it is 6 men for every 1 woman, which is the worst. Men's health is worse than women in every part of the world. Recent World Health Organization data shows that globally, male life expectancy at birth in 2015 is 69 years. For females, it's 74 years. Children suffer when they lose a father or grandfather prematurely. So let's work together to turn the tide of male ill health and suicide. The deplorable state of men's health internationally is obviously a contributing factor to the epidemic of male suicide across the world. This year's Glenn Poole, the IMD coordinator for the UK, has written a book called Stop Male Suicide. His solution can be summed up in the words learn, love, listen. Let's use that model for this year's International Men's Day, and let's all help stop male suicide. If we apply this saying every day, the world would become a better place. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Sounds great.
Well, I wanted to speak on that part where it said, talking about the contributions that men have made to society, because I think we, as in terms of lowering suicide rate, the male suicide rate, we all can make a difference in that area by simply, going to the men in our family, or, just in our neighborhood in general, that have made positive impacts in our lives, and saying, you know what, that thing you did last week, or, last year, or when I was growing up, that contribution that you made, I mean, it had such an incredible lasting impact on my life. And I just want to thank you for that. And a lot of people may not appreciate the sacrifices you made when you did that, but I personally want to thank you for that. And I think a lot of these guys have never heard that before. You're talking about men who in society. Now, I'm not going to idealize all men, because they're, just like with women, there's good and bad men. But just like in that article, it said positive role models. So International Men's Day is a celebration of positive. We can get back to the male bashing and stuff like that the day after International Men's Day, but on International Men's Day, we're going to take the time to reconnect with those friends we have, those family members that we used to be close to, but because we're too busy, or maybe it just slipped our thought, but for whatever reason, they're not we're not as active in their life as we used to be. We're going to reconnect with those people, at least for a moment. You know, if that person had a positive impact in your life, and you're going to call that person up or go to that person's home, and you're going to at least listen to that person, just like what it said in that article. Love and listen. You're going to listen to that man share something that he's been carrying around in his heart. I mean, it could be something, maybe it's something he's talking about, the football, his favorite football team or something like that. You know, allow him to talk about that and listen, you know, give him maybe 30 minutes, you know, but at least pretend that you're interested in something that he holds value in, you know what I'm saying? And I think just by doing that, we can make a big difference in that male suicide rate. Because a lot of these men simply do not feel that they're being listened to anywhere or being valued as human beings. It's a shame because some of these guys are breaking their backs to provide for their families, you know, and extended families. You know, you got grandfathers that are breaking their backs to provide for their extended family, and they don't get the appreciation that they deserve. Stepfathers, you know, stepfathers are stepping in and taking children under their wings in broken homes that don't get any thanks for it in a lot of cases. So that's something that I'm going to try to reflect on this Men's International Day.
Okay, so well, that's well said, and I want to respond to that in a little bit, but want to go ahead and go through this list, and there's about 5 pages, so I'll ask my guest to just kind of let me go through this as quickly as possible, and then you are free to talk about anything you desire, anything from this list, or anything else you wish to talk about. But this is a list of all of the major events that have happened since November 19th of last year. So we'll start off with November. A 9-year-old boy faces sexual harassment charges for writing a love note to a girl. December, and start off with a Swedish woman giving copies of "We Should All Be Feminists" to 16-year-olds. It does criticize masculinity. Chubb, a multinational insurance company, offers coverage of 50,000 euros for cyberbullying, which also includes counseling, relocation, and time off work. As a joke, Yale University student Amy Horowitz got people to sign a petition to repeal the First Amendment. Also in December, Makil Kular, a woman who beat her son to death over a period of 4 days, went to jail, but because she received death threats from other female prisoners, she was given her own cell with a shower and her own key to her cell door, and also given kitchen duty, which is considered a cushy job in prison.
What the fuck?
Following on to January, Milo Yiannopoulos loses his Twitter verification badge for an undisclosed reason. A feminist study finds that STEM courses to be discriminatory to women, as it teaches facts to be static and heavily focused on knowledge. The study states that STEM is designed for boys to pass and girls to fail. Then there was Melissa Click. Now, early in 2015, actually I think it was mid, she was the one who called, like, let's get some muscle over here to deal with this reporter. Well, she got charged with assault, and then a few weeks later, she got fired from Ms. Zhao, but she was later hired in September by Gonzaga University.
What?
Yeah. However, as a result of what happened in Mizzou, enrollment dropped for the new freshman class.
Interesting.
You're just like, fuck that.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
In February, Twitter establishes the Trust in Safety Council over 4 organizations as members, including Anita Sarkeesian.
Oh, God.
March, we saw the Ghostbusters official trailer, which was downvoted so much it is considered the worst trailer in YouTube history. At present, has over 1 million downvotes. Also, Lauren Southern questions female protesters in Vancouver, arguing that there are only 2 genders. During the interview with 3 females, someone poured liquid on her she believed to be urine. Students at Western Washington University interrupted a trustee meeting with demands that they hire 10 new faculty members of the approval of the students, that the trustees spend $50,000 for a party for the students, create a special office that would monitor all speech on campus, and change how history is taught, even so far as change history to HX story.
Oh, are you serious right now?
Yeah, they wanted to change because history is his story, as they claim. That's what it stands for.
Fucking done.
Now, how long is it going to be before employers start looking at this and say that a college degree is a reason not to hire somebody instead of a reason to hire somebody? Would you want to hire one of these people?
No.
I know I wouldn't.
Oh, God.
Well, especially the next part. A $400,000 study was released stating that scientists should view climate change through a feminist lens, looking at the patriarchy as the cause to global warming.
Yep.
Also, in the month of March, jury awards Hulk Hogan $115 million from Gawker for posting his sex tape online. Gawker later declares bankruptcy.
Oh.
Lol.
A fan requested that I post this. Gian Gomeshi, who was charged with 1 count of choking and 4 counts of sexual assault, was cleared of all charges.
Yeah, there's a very good interview with his lawyer on, I think it's the National Post website. And they asked her some very relevant questions, and she explains the importance of due process, innocent until proven guilty, presumption of innocence. And she was basically explaining how the feminist protesters could not grasp that concept at all, and how she was shocked that they couldn't really understand something that basic. But it's a very good interview. If any of you had the time, check it out, and haven't seen it, you should check it out.
I'll definitely do that. Going on to April, Kevin Areola, I love that name, by the way, of Ryerson University in Toronto, was suing his school due to the student union not allowing for a men's group on campus. I don't know the result of that. I couldn't find anything about that. Ontario announced that starting in September, boys will start getting a free HPV vaccine. Girls had been receiving one since 2007. I don't believe that boys receive this vaccine in the United States or in the UK. Actually, they had the whole Parliament debate yesterday where they stated that they don't. Australia does, however. But we'll talk about the importance of this in just a moment further down in this list. Northwestern University fraternities were forced to apologize to the campus female students for hanging banners that said sexual assault is everyone's responsibility. They were trying to do a good thing and they were forced to apologize for that.
Wow.
Oxford gives trigger warnings for subjects of violence and allows students to skip lectures if they need to. Then we had Black Lives Matter storms the DePaul University with Milo giving a talk. Milo was threatened and assaulted while on stage. This came after the university demanded that he give more money for security, thinking that he wouldn't pay, so have to cancel the talk. But the security did nothing to protect Milo. Dale Vance required to pay his ex-wife $300,000, even though he didn't become a millionaire until a decade after they split up and divorced. He made his money in green technologies.
But yeah, that Black Lives Matter incident, I actually got into an argument with somebody online about that. Even though, you know, the full video of the incident was available, and you can see the Black Lives Matter protester assaulting him. The person I was arguing with, it was actually several people on the thread. They was like, "Nah, she didn't hit him. You know, she just lightly touched his head." I was like, "Oh, okay. Is that why his head flinched back?"
Well, even if it was a light touch, it's still assault.
Yeah, it's still assault. And I mean, you counter this a lot. Anytime a woman hits a man on video or something, people will come and try to minimize, you know, the assault or whatever. Oh, it's just a light touch with their hand, or he headbutted her fist, you know.
So this one,
Yeah, and he might have damaged her delicate fist by doing that.
oh yes.
Yeah. He broke a nail.
Well, women are so weak.
That's basically rape.
Yep.
So this next one's interesting. Wayne State University in Detroit is dropping mandatory math requirement, allowing each department to determine what level of math is needed for their courses, or if any is needed at all, and is issuing diversity course as a requirement. So they're not getting rid of math, but probably because women do so poorly in math as a whole, they're dropping the requirement and instead replacing it with diversity courses.
Wow.
June 14th, which is my birthday, EA launches in-game challenge in Star Wars Battlefront to encourage players to commit to he for she pledge.
Oh,
What?
Also on this day, which was very important, the Senate passes a bill for women to register for selective service. Unfortunately, the House didn't pass the same bill, so it kind of went into a debate on how to proceed, and it ultimately did not pass.
And then, you know, that's one of those subjects that the Democrats and the Republicans join hands on, and you know, in order to save the women. And you know, and they both, you know, they get together and say, you know, women are too weak. They're too helpless. They're too fragile for, you know, this sort of service. And you know, as a war vet myself, man, who served with women in Iraq, you know, I always shake my head when I hear that shit. I'm like, no, they're not too weak. They're not helpless. You know, and you always see the right wing conservative chicks come and pretend that they're helpless too. And you know, they're so full of shit, man. You know, you may not have to go to combat, but if men have to register for selective service at 18, women can at least be registered to pick up some damn trash on the side of the road or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's the way. If I have to go and register to be able to get a driver's license in some states, then you know, women need to be registered to do something at 18. That's the way I see it.
yeah.
Yep.
Definitely agree with that. Also in June, joke hashtag heterosexual pride day upset social justice warriors, citing that every day is heterosexual pride day, eventually turning into an argument against men. It actually started in 2015, but it never picked on, so they tried again in 2016, and Twitter just exploded. I do have a video on this on my channel somewhere.
I mean, when is the last time you heard somebody say, I'm proud of being a heterosexual?
Oh, God.
Well, I guess we should
Yeah,
say
I mean,
we're proud of it today because today is apparently Heterosexual Pride Day, because every day is.
Okay, I hear that. I guess we need to mark it on our calendar.
You're not heterosexual.
No, I was just trying to
Well, don't worry. If you missed it today, tomorrow will be Heterosexual Pride Day.
Okay. Lucky
All
us.
right. Going into July, the infamous Ghostbusters movies finally comes out after months of being told that the reason that we don't like it is because we hate women.
Yeah.
They suffer a $70 million loss in profits.
Have you seen the South Park episode that they did about, or the few South Park episodes they did where they talked about the Ghostbusters movie?
No, I had it. I guess I
Oh
need
my
to go check
God.
that out then.
Cartman goes and sees it, and he fucking he texts or he emails Butters, and he's like, "God, that was the shittiest movie ever. And women ruined it." and then he he got like a girlfriend or something, and he became all like social justice warrior-y. And he was like, "I swear to God, every time Amy Schumer jokes about her vagina, I lose my fucking shit." You gotta watch it.
Over and over.
I got to check that out.
Yeah, it's like the whole new season is about this.
All of it,
All of
and the
Is
election.
Yeah, and the election.
Oh, God. I might have to get that box set.
Actually, South Park actually had to last minute change the new episode that was coming out because they had made it thinking that Hillary Clinton was going to win, and they had to switch it up because Donald Trump won. So
I
they
mean,
had, I guess they had like 2 episodes just in case.
Wow. I mean, that's a prime example of how comedy can be funny if it's not politically correct bullshit. And
That's why I love that part,
sad.
especially this fucking season.
Yeah, it was great.
it's sad what they've done to comedy, man. You know, Comedy Central and you know, the Daily Show and the Nightly Show. I'm glad that shit was canceled. But I mean, it's all about, you know, just let's bash conservatives and Republicans and white people and you know, what else? Let's bash men and you know, I mean, it's the same predictable bullshit, man. You know, and thankfully we still have shows like South Park, and I used to like Key and Peele, but that's not on on anymore.
Well, yeah. What's his name? Jordan Peele. He said
Dave
a few
Chappelle.
feministy things on that show. I couldn't tell if he was joking or not, but he actually like said, "Yeah, like I'm a feminist." Like not in one of the like in one of the sketches. So I don't know, but they did still make a lot of, you know, jokes. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is they weren't politically correct racially, and I guess that's the good thing. Because those type of shows are very rare. So,
All right, so moving on with the list, which we're about halfway done. I know there's like so many talking points on this, but Nottinghamshire police make misogyny a hate crime, something that you can get arrested for. Within 2 months, they had over 20 investigations open. And there is strong considerations for this to be adopted in other places in Europe.
Oh, God.
Milo was permanently banned on Twitter. And also in July, Australian schools no longer using gender terms for parents or grandparents encourages boys to dress as girls in non-gender specific free play. So there are boys wearing dresses as a requirement.
Why?
because
what's the point?
To get rid of boys. That's the point.
Yeah.
August, Houston, Texas will implement a new law in December, so next month, that if you owe child support, you cannot renew your vehicle's registration.
Yep.
But good news, University of Chicago not catering to safe spaces or trigger warnings. So if you're going to go to University of Chicago.
Go back to that last one about the driver's licenses. See, that shit right there, you know, you got the feminists on the extreme left, and then you got the right-wingers doing shit like that. They're the ones that love to get on stage, in front of the podium and brag about how they've gone after all of these deadbeat fathers and really showed them. And, you know, a lot of these guys are just too poor to pay the required child support, but they're still, you know, they're helping their children out in other ways that don't show up on paper. But as far as they're concerned, they're deadbeats and they don't deserve a driver's license and shit like that. And that's what pisses me off about, you know, both the right and the left. And that's why I don't get on the bandwagon praising the left or the right. You know, it's pretty cool to praise the right now in reaction to the left going crazy. But I'm not getting on the bandwagon at all. I tell people that real quick because I actually have a memory and I see what these motherfuckers are doing.
Yeah, and you got a good point about the right-left divide, and also, how are these guys going to make any money and start paying the child support when they can no longer drive? I mean, how many jobs can you? There's usually in a lot of places you can't get a job unless you can drive.
Well, also,
that's what someone just said in the chat.
In response to that, which is actually a bullshit reason, is they can take public transit. And the article I read pointed this out. It's like, well, you know, not everyone lives in a metro area. Sometimes they live on the outskirts of town, especially if they're poor.
Yeah, I was gonna say get a job driving a taxi, but if they're living in the country, that wouldn't really work out.
Yeah.
So.
Then they'd have a car.
And in fact, many people in Texas were against this idea, including the DMV, because they weren't properly trained on how to use this new system. And what if the system didn't properly update, that they pay child support, but the system hasn't been updated? Well, now they're screwed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, that's something people really need to think about. What Egregious just brought up. How are these fathers going to pay and contribute when they don't have a car, or they're in prison, or they're in, you know, debtor's jail, or whatever the hell it is? And so it's not really about providing the kids with support from their father. It's about punishment.
Yep.
You know, it's about punishment and looking tough. You know, you're this Republican with a small penis or whatever the fuck is wrong with them. They're overcompensating for, I don't know what, you know, daddy swagger out there and show, you know, how tough they are. And I'm just not impressed. So like I said, I'm not getting on the bandwagon just because, you know, the right wingers are looking better right now than the left wingers.
All right, continuing on with. Oh, go ahead, Charles.
I was just going to say, I think what a lot of these people are compensating for is they don't treat women well in their personal lives. They are exactly the people they're warning us about, and I don't think there's nearly as many of them as they make out. You know, they want to show everybody else as worse than them to make them feel better.
That's a really good theory. Oh man, that's excellent. I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Now you see why I like him so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it was great to have these conversations. But man, I mean, that makes perfect sense.
It does. All right, I do need to continue on with this list. Lawrenceburg, Tennessee is instituting corporal punishment against students if they act up. Tennessee is one of the few states that still allows this. One mother is fighting it, not that she's against the child for being hit for misbehaving, but that it's only being issued against males and not females. Females get a pass from this.
Isn't that sick? That's fucking sick, man.
Yeah. This was actually a bit of good news. New stats from Attorney General in the UK show that conviction of women abusing men in relationships rose from 1850 in 2007 to 5640 in 2015, which is an increase of 200%. It's reported that 177 women each week are convicted of domestic violence against men.
Wow.
So more men are reporting it, and it's being taken more seriously in the UK.
Watch out.
Man, I mean, that is dramatic.
A student at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, allows students to put down the personal pronouns that they desire to be called. One student put down His Majesty. So he now has to be referred to as His Majesty anytime someone talks to him.
That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah, that's kinky. Pretty kinky.
But on the same day, very bad news, California signed into law that ends the statute of limitations on rape, meaning that if rape happened at any point in your lifetime, you can report it and have it go to trial, even if it happened 100 years ago.
Well, you got to stop. We got to stop Bill Cosby. You know, this blind elderly man. You know, they're calling him Pill Cosby now. He's up and putting pills and all and women's drinks across 50 states. You know, no woman or vagina is safe from Bill Cosby. So that's
they should be putting pills in your vagina. I'm just saying.
Putting pills in vaginas too. But
oh my god!
I mean, I had a meme. It was pretty funny with Miss Piggy on it, and she said, "Bill Cosby raped me." And I mean, that's how ridiculous it's getting. I wouldn't be surprised if freaking Donald Duck came out at a press conference and said Bill Cosby raped him, so we have to end the statute of limitations or something like that. But that's how ridiculous it's gotten in California, and they were just looking for the excuse they needed to end that statute of limitations. So now it's so crazy with no limitations on the time limit. They can dig up freaking George Washington's corpse and put him on the defense stand and accuse him of rape. And the judge would have to sit his silly ass up there and pretend he's taking it seriously. That's how laughable it's gotten, man.
Yeah. Well, let's look at some more laughable shit. Okay, in October, Juan Rivera spent 20 years in prison for the rape and murder of an 11-year-old girl, but DNA evidence exonerated him, and he was awarded $11.4 million. However, during the 20 years that he was in prison, he got married and plans to divorce the woman, but Illinois appeals court states that part of the settlement he received, he has to give to her.
Imagine that. Isn't that some shit? Now, that's another one of those subjects where, the left wing is the one that set down the stiff rape penalties or something like that. Then the right wing came and said, "Oh, here's your cut, ma'am." I mean, that's how crazy it gets when it comes to these sort of laws, man. I would not be surprised if it was two different parties on both ends being involved in that shit.
Well, I always argue that there aren't two parties. There's just one parties with a lot of drama queens.
Exactly. Both roads lead to gynocentrism. That's the way I look at it. Just different flavor of gynocentrism.
Flavors.
Well, it's like a meme that you posted. two cheeks on the same ass, but I was on the same feminist ass.
Yeah.
Okay, but also in October, the Red Pill movie was released to be played at theaters. It's faced a lot of backlash from feminist groups who haven't actually seen the film, and has had petitions to ban it in Australia and Germany. At least one theater in Australia has banned it.
What's the film called?
Red Pill movie?
Oh.
In October, UN Women state that more women are the victim of natural disasters than men due to structural gender inequalities.
Huh?
Jordan Peterson at the University of Toronto refused to apologize for not addressing students by the pronouns they prefer and saying there are only two genders. Australian children will learn about male privilege, teaching men bad, women are victims. U.S. Navy paints a Grumman F9F-8 Cougar pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which doesn't properly recognize men as being victims of breast cancer.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a favorite of mine. An episode of Jeopardy had this $600 clue. This 21st century word happens when a male patronizingly tells a female about a topic she already understands. The correct response, what is mansplaining? U.S. Air Force pilots can now skip the fitness test if they are transgender and in the process of transitioning.
Why?
Surely they need to be just as fit.
Right?
Yeah.
You think, huh? It almost makes me want to sign back up, you know?
Title IX campus rape investigations coming to UK universities in 2017. Now, I mentioned HPV before, and this was the reason why this was so important. Reports indicate that oral cancer has rose 61% from 2011 to 2015 in men. Now, it used to be believed that it was smoking and alcohol that was the cause of this, but both of those have reduced in men's usage. It is now believed that HPV could be the major cause of oral cancer in men. Oral cancer affects men 3 times more than women. And there are still many places where boys are not getting the vaccine.
Jeez. Why?
University of York not set to do any events for International Men's Day due to complaint last year from feminist groups. Last year, the decision came less than 24 hours after the suicide of a male student. And within the last year, a total of 5 people, mostly men, committed suicide. York is deemed the worst university of mental health for their students. They have dedicated £500,000 over the next 3 years for mental health, but still nothing on the day that promotes mental health awareness for males.
But I bet you if it was women transitioning into being men, they would have plenty to commemorate those suicides right there.
Male birth control study released on its findings. A series of media sites report that men can't handle the side effects, which is why the study was stopped. That was not the case. Women are suing Chicago Fire Department for discrimination in making physical requirements biased against women, so they will fail. And lastly, to November, university seeks to purge male students of their toxic masculinities. 191 pairs of shoes laid out on Bondi Beach in Australia to symbolize Aussie men who committed suicide in October. 191 people committed suicide in Australia in October. Lena Dunham creates a sketch with her father calling for the extinction of white men, later citing that it's not the end of men, just an evolution of men into better men. We also had Rolling Stones magazine writer Sabrina Erdley found liable for defamation of former Associated Dean Nicole Aramo of the University of Virginia. This was about the Jackie rape case. She is awarded $3 million. And finally, despite liberal media reporting a 99% chance Hillary would win the presidential election, Trump wins. I now turn it to my guests.
Well, I mean, what you're seeing there is a lot of it is just showing how extreme the liberal side of the coin has gotten openly towards open discrimination against men and boys, and with basically labeling masculinity as innately toxic and violent. And I mean, sometimes I wonder what's their end goal, if they have an end goal. That's my fear. And I hate to put on my tinfoil hat or anything like that, but my fear is that, once the designer babies technology comes out and stuff like that, I hope we don't end up seeing women actually, these feminist mothers and, these hysterical moms out here that subscribe to this fear mongering. I hope we don't see them actually, going in there and saying, hey, I know I'm pregnant with a boy. Can you turn him into a girl? Or can you lower his testosterone level, to stave off his toxic masculinity and, all of that crazy stuff. It sounds far-fetched, but, you never know with these crazy people.
Yeah, I can imagine it happening.
All it would take would be like Lena Dunham to get pregnant. Oh God, I hope that doesn't happen. To get pregnant, come out and put on her pantsuit and make the big statement. She put her on her platinum pantsuit or something while she's doing it, and have some kind of big glamorous commercial. I'm doing my part to rid the world of toxic masculinity. She looks into the camera with tears in her eyes, and I was raped when I was 10 years old, and he had toxic masculinity too. So I'm doing my part, and you can too. And they start playing the piano music, that's how sick they might end up getting, man.
Well, wasn't it a post you had, or what, maybe it was Thigo, however you say his name, I don't really know, about they're putting estrogen in like food and water?
Well, that was one of the concerns with the BPA and the plastic and things like that. What we are seeing is a drop in the male sperm count and the testosterone levels due to some of the environmental toxins. And so, that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of guys with like man boobs and stuff like that now, I think. But you're also seeing a lot more infertility. The infertility industry is booming right now. Drugs to take care of impotence, erectile dysfunction, which didn't used to be problems that were that as much of a cause for concern in our father and grandfather's time or whatever. So we are seeing those sort of problems become more prevalent. So hopefully they can figure out what is really contributing to it. But BPA is one of the big ones that they're looking at. The phthalates that were in a lot of the children's toys and the pacifiers and the baby bottles. And so they're just now starting to talk about getting a lot of that out of the products now. So we'll see.
Yeah, my Camelback water bottle is supposed to be BPA free, and it's a filtered water bottle.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Yep. I can't stand drinking water out of a sink. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I use a distiller and a water filter, especially down here in Georgia. And I'll tell you, man, once the distilling process gets finished, it's all kind of crap in there. I'm like, what the hell? I can't even drink tap water anymore.
I don't even like bathing in the water.
Hell no.
I don't want that shit touching my skin. I want to take care of my skin. What?
Well, Thiago, hopefully I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, Thiago.
Estrogen in birth control increases group conformity in children, makes boys more compliant, and lessen their testosterone. Which makes me wonder if that's why we're starting to see more children wanting to switch their genders around.
Well, I actually posted a lot of the old history on that and how the first birth control pill, and I think those chemicals are still in the modern pill, but that pill was rammed through by Margaret Sanger and another feminist patron, a wealthy feminist. The researchers, they said, weren't moving fast enough to get that product on the market. So what they did was they came in and used their financial muscle to ram that pill through and push it onto the market, even though there were safety concerns and things like that. And then actually when the side effects started showing up, this is how sick the feminist movement is. So you had feminist Margaret Sanger and her feminist financial backer ramming the pill through prematurely. And then after the side effects showed up, men tried to get together and have a conference exposing the side effects and things like that and asking, what should we do about this? What should we do about this? So in come the feminist movement, going crazy and yelling and screaming and saying, how dare you expose us to these chemicals? Now, hold on. Let me back up. First, they said, no, you're trying to take away our pill to disempower us. And so as they sat there and listened to all of the side effects being revealed, then they said, oh, no, how dare you expose us to these toxins? Basically, it's one of these situations, and Chris can tell you I posted all of the information on this from the history archives. And so basically, you're seeing a scenario where men basically can't win for losing. It's an incredible catch-22 the men in the science field have experienced. And this is a catch-22 that men in all walks of society experience at one point in time in their life. And then once again, I think that's one of the things that contributes to male suicide, because he's like, eventually you're like, man, I can't win for losing. So I'm better off not being on this planet. Thankfully, I've never gotten to that point. But I can kind of understand how some of these guys do if they're hit with it from every angle by if they are unlucky enough to be born into a family of feminists and gynocentric right wingers, and they're getting hit from both sides with this stuff,
Well, it was kind of a point that I made today on that basis that children growing up today, we're seeing a lot more boys wanting to switch their gender to being girls. And it's like, I understand that it does happen, but I don't think it's as common as people are making it out to be. And, now we're having children learning about white privilege and male privilege and teaching boys not to rape. And we're seeing examples of feminist families, like, well, we're encouraging them not to, live in, the toxic masculinity. It's like, okay, so you're basically teaching them not to be boys. And it's like, how can they ever truly make a decision about what gender to be when they're being told the moment they're born that being male is the worst thing you can possibly be? And I'm willing to bet that in most of these cases of these children wanting to be girls, that it's, if they weren't in this environment of being told that being a boy is bad, they wouldn't want it anymore. In fact, that has been proven in at least one case that was in the news of this woman raising their young son as a girl. And it was deemed that she was abusing this child mentally, and he was taken out of his home to live with his father, and he quickly adopted to being a boy again. Now, they didn't really force it on him, but he started playing with trucks and all of that.
Well, a pretty interesting case from history about how a lot of this stuff was made normal, quote unquote normal. But I do believe that some kids do have gender dysphoria. There may be rare cases of that, but I think it's blown out of proportion. And like you say, you do have these cases where these 4-year-old kids are taken by their moms, or they're both their parents, and they're put on hormones. And the second the boy reaches for a dress, they say, "Oh, he's transgendered. I know he's 3 or 4 years old, but let's put him on these hormones and do his hair like a girl, and change his name and all this crazy stuff." And the media is actually pretending like it's normal. They're giving them interviews and everything. So they're actually turning them into celebrities. But back in the 1970s, there was a fellow named John Money. He was a researcher, and he was researching a lot of this stuff. He was one of the first researchers that actually looked into transsexualism and gender identity disorders and things of that nature. And he needed proof. He basically had a bias, and he wanted to prove his bias that gender was a social construct. And his opportunity came when a little boy, as a result of a circumcision accident, he ended up having his penis burned off at birth. And
What?
Oh,
yeah.
I know this story. I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, God, that's terrible.
There's a good documentary on it on YouTube. I have to see if I can find it later.
I think I saw it on like 2020 once, and woo, my God, what that.
Yeah.
Please go
And
on.
so his penis was removed, and so his parents, they felt guilty, and so they were looking for a solution. So in comes John Money, Dr. Money is what they call him. What a name, huh? And he whispers in their ear and tells them, "You know what? We can raise this boy as a girl, and don't tell him that he was born as a boy. Don't tell him anything. Don't tell him anything about this accident. And we'll pretend like nothing ever happened, because gender is a social construct." And so his parents, they began raising him as a girl. And he had a twin brother, I believe, too.
Yeah.
So anyway, they began raising him as a girl, and everything seemed fine up until he hit puberty.
Oh.
And right around puberty, he started wanting to play with trucks and boy toys, and do play sports and wrestle. and stuff like this. And so, his parents started to get worried. And this entire time, he was going to see Dr. John Money regularly, and Money was writing down, just taking notes, research notes the entire time. And he was publishing his paper saying that this is proof that gender is a social construct, that, you can take any boy or girl at birth and if it's a boy, raise that boy as a girl, and there will be no negative repercussions. Likewise, you could take a girl at birth, a baby girl, raise that girl as a boy, and there won't be any negative repercussions.
The feminists wouldn't allow that.
Well, what ended up happening was the boy ended up being suicidal, ended up suffering long bouts of depression. He still didn't know, what happened. And then eventually the boy ended up committing suicide. And now when Dr. Money was publishing his research, the feminist movement came out and hailed this as proof. They gathered around him, and, he was basically, one of their heroes. And, this was the proof they were looking for as well. And I posted that on my page, the article from the BBC talking about the feminist connection in there. But so this is the roots of a lot of this stuff right here. And you're talking about an industry with some very corrupt people who are basically setting out to prove their own already well-established biases. And
that's all what feminist research is. And when I look through this feminist research, I see the bias so clearly, and I'm like, how did this get a peer review? Like, there was an Italian study done on the effects of violent video games on troubled kids. And the problem with the study is they took the kids, showed them a violent video, then asked them, do you have violent tendencies? They said, yes. Oh, that's proof that we're right. And it's like, you did this test very poorly because you didn't ask them how they felt before they saw it.
Yeah.
In fact, you only showed them one video and, oh, there's your proof.
And, and that's going to lead to boys, they're basically destroying or attacking a male venting mechanism where boys get together and, online or whatever, and they vent their frustration through video games. So they, instead of being violent, they take it out on the character on the video game. So, you want to take away video games or demonize video games. What do they think that's going to do to the rate of violence in society in general? So, a lot of this stuff isn't just weird, this agenda that feminists have. It's actually dangerous. Even with prostitution and pornography, they attack prostitution and pornography. And they say, the women don't have a choice. They're all slaves, and, they're all brainwashed, even though the prostitutes and the porn stars are telling them, no, we choose to do this. This is empowering us because, we control our own bodies, and we dictate a lot of what goes on in the scenes and everything. But they're not listening to that, and they're trying. And this has been something they've been doing ever since the 70s as well, with Andrea Dworkin and those types, where they said that pornography is basically a one-way road to rape, and things like that.
Well, in fact, with pornography, a woman in a scene can stop at any time. She can like, I need to stop, and they will stop. But a man cannot say that. A man cannot just say, I need to stop the scene. He's expected to continue on even if he's uncomfortable. Yeah,
and the female actresses get paid many times more than the male actors.
Yeah.
Wage gap.
Wage gap. There you go.
Yeah, if that was included in the wage gap, I think it would probably balance out.
And prostitution was legal through most of U.S. history. They only banned it. Was the same women's Christian temperance movement that banned alcohol, that banned prostitution in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was basically first wave feminism right there. And so, they want to eliminate pornography and prostitution, but they've actually found that areas with, if you introduce prostitution or pornography into different areas, it actually drops the rate of sexual assault and rape in those areas. Whereas if you eliminate it completely, then the rate of rape and sexual assault goes up. So once again, it's not about protecting women. It's about getting even. It's about controlling sex. And this is another one of those areas where the left wing and the right wing, the people in power in the left wing and the right wing converge together. And they tried to restrict things, and they tried to they don't like the idea of men having sexual outlets that they can't control. They don't like the idea of men having areas where they can enjoy themselves, whether it's video games or whatever, that they can't control. That's why it's so difficult to find a video game with blood on it. Even if it's a fighting game, they're punching each other in the fighting game. You're like, where's the blood? You get like sparks coming out of the characters and shit. And you're like, man,
you want blood, you gotta get Mortal Kombat.
You gotta get Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And the games in Japan, they all have blood and everything in them. You're like, man.
But they have pixely genitals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the downside.
Yeah. Of course, you wouldn't know that.
Duh.
Yeah.
And they need to shave. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I was actually been thinking about something I saw Black Knight Fool write a little while ago, that a lot of young boys don't have masculine role models to look up to, and it just started making me think about my childhood and like near the beginning of the show how a lot of men are out making money for their families and stuff, so they don't much and this and that. Well, my dad was out making money to help support our family and building houses and stuff, and I'm at home with my mom all day and my sister being homeschooled through my childhood, like since second grade all the way through I graduated high school. And women all day every day until I get old enough to get a license to get a job and this and that. And like my male role models in Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent and Barry Allen, so it's like I guess it's just a matter of like what kind of situation that boy's in, that because all I was around was feminist stuff and I needed to find a outlet. So I got like I was in the Ninja Turtles, like all my moral values came from Batman and not wanting to kill anybody, or like it's like Dragon Ball Z and Goku. Like I got me a Dragon Ball Z sweater on right now. I got my Ninja Turtle pajama pants on cool, right now.
I like those.
And I'm 31 years old.
Yeah. But so, I mean, what you just described there is what Warren Farrell talked about in his books and his talks. Dr. Warren Farrell, he was one of the first men's rights activists in the modern era, and he talked about the catch-22 of how men derive love in society, and he talked about the pain that men face in having to obtain love through not being around their family, by working themselves to death, working overtime, working those risky jobs, and then they're expected to go home and be emotionally available 24/7, even though they're working in jobs, like with me, being a war vet, where you have to numb yourself in order to make it in those brutal industries. In order to do that degrading work, you have to numb yourself emotionally, and then you get home and you have to instantly flip the switch to where you're emotionally available, and you're immediately You know, you can sit there and listen to other people share their emotions and stuff like that for an hour or so, 2 hours. And, you know, it's a pretty difficult experience. And what happens is that man ends up feeling like he's living in a house full of strangers. And if he does have a type of wife who is vindictive and who is immature, she's going to be turning those children against him.
Oh yeah,
And
Like that woman on divorce court.
yeah. What she's going to be expecting him to come home and discipline the kids as soon as he gets in the house. So
Even if they ain't his.
what are those children going to think? What are those children going to think when they see their father? You know, the second he gets in the house, he's the disciplinary figure. You know, this guy, he just works and he's mean. You know, he's not fun like mom. He doesn't give me whatever I want like mom. Yeah. He lets me hurt myself. Or he puts me in environments where I can hurt myself. And so that's what kids see. And it's not until we get older as men that we begin to appreciate it. And I didn't get the chance to appreciate my grandfather, what he was doing for our family, working in construction and, you know, getting some serious injuries. He suffered a debilitating head injury. He ended up being bipolar as a result of it. And I didn't appreciate him until probably the last few years of his life. And so I have a lot of regrets. When Warren Farrell was describing this, he actually brought up his own father's experience. And it was very touching because his father worked himself to death. And, you know, he actually started crying when he was describing it. But, you know, this is something that we do have control over in our own families. We can change this in our own families. You know, we can say, okay, instead of one of you working overtime, both of us can work part-time so we have equal amount of time with the kids. Or, you know, you've been working 5 years straight and I've been home with the kids, so I'm going to work now. And you spend a year with the kids homeschooling or something like that. Yeah. So we have, and this is what Warren Farrell talks about. He talks about how we have the opportunity now to redefine our role as men and women and not let the left wingers or the right wingers tell us what defines a man or a woman. You know, don't ever let anybody tell you what a real man is. I always tell them, no, I define for myself what a real man is. You don't define what a real man is for me.
You know, what's crazy about all that you talked about with Warren Farrell, a very good point that he brought up about this is, yeah, men are working all of these hours and sacrificing for their families, but then feminists will turn it around and it's like, well, he makes all of the money, so he has all of the power in the relationship, and he's just oppressing his wife. And it's like, you know, most of these men would gladly give up some of the money they make to spend more time with their family. And what power do they have in making more money? All of it goes to their family, and they have to work overtime just to try to get their family everything they need, just to come home and feel underappreciated and demanded to clean out the gutters and mow the lawn and what have you. And then his wife bitching, well, you don't do anything around the house. It's like, I'm at work all fucking day. And it's a horrible life to go through. And yet feminists will still turn around and say, well, he's a man. He has all of the power. He makes all of the money. And it's unfair to the wife.
Yeah. And, you know, that's if you want to be a real man, quote unquote, real man, you know. And I tell them, you know, maybe I don't want to be a real man. You know, maybe I just want to be me. What's the problem with that? What's wrong with that? Me just being me. You know, I don't have to perform for you in order to be defined as a man. You know, and if I do, then, you know, maybe I don't want to embrace that title. And the right wingers, the conservatives, they're the quickest to use that phrase. You're not a real man, because you don't treat women like they're helpless. You know what I'm saying? You don't just stand in front of buildings opening doors for women who are physically capable of opening their own doors, and you don't sit there. You don't just jump into a fight just because a woman is in a fight, not knowing whether she started it or not, and take the blows for her, or you're ready to beat somebody up for her without even knowing whether she started the fight or anything, or whether she's a good person or anything. And that's what these, they've trained, and this is what they've raised their boys and stuff like that to believe. That's their purpose in life, to be a human wallet, human bodyguard for all women in society. And that's what gives their life purpose. And once they do end up retiring or getting laid off, then they don't have any identity anymore. And that's when they start looking down the barrel of their shotgun, ready to blow their head off, And that's why it's best for men to define for themselves, what is a man? What do you stand for? What are you willing to die for? What's important to you as an individual, rather than what society tells you. You're not your uniform, you're not your title, you are a human being, and you're just as valuable as women are. And that's what a lot of men don't understand.
Yeah.
So, Charles, you've been quiet for a little bit. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, yeah, I wanted to mention something about about when a man comes home from work, or when a woman comes home from work. It's kind of important to know that when, just in general, when a man is tired, he talks less, and when a woman is tired, she talks more. So when they both come home, the woman might be going a mile a minute, and the man won't want to say anything. And it's not that one is right and the other's wrong. It's just something that they ought to know about each other.
That's why men make such good listeners.
Well, I mean, I think at the last tally I looked up, women speak, I think it was 13,000 more words per day than men. Yeah, they actually did a study on it, and this was ABC News. So, and what society constantly tells men is that we don't listen to women enough and stuff like that. So my question is, if women speak 13,000 more words per day than men, who the fuck is listening to them to speak all of those words? Are they talking to themselves, or what?
They're talking to their girlfriends about how much they hate men.
And I guarantee their girlfriends are not listening.
Have you ever seen a group of girls talk to each other? None of them can complete a thought. They just constantly interrupt each other. And it's just like, I try to get into these conversations. The moment I say something, interrupted. I'm like, how does females work with each other?
For real. Dude, on Feminist Flows streams, when we would have 8+ women on there, it was bad. It was so bad. Nobody would shut up. Nobody would let anyone finish a sentence, and nobody would let anybody else talk. And me and Brittany Venti, we were the quiet ones of the group. So we were, we would be like, no, okay. It was so bad. It was hilarious though.
Well, that's why I feel kind of bad for those guys that have nothing but girls. Not that there's anything innately wrong with girls, but once they get together and they're talking and they get going, and every one of them is talking about that bitch she hates at work.
Yep.
You know, that's the subject that they never stop talking about.
Nope.
You get on that subject, and man, you're gonna be a skeleton over there, waiting on them.
I got a bitch at work. I got a bitch at work I talk about every day when I come home.
Uh-oh.
And yesterday she wasn't there, so I didn't have anything to bitch about, and I was really happy.
So was I.
Isn't that great?
Oh, shut up.
Oh, God.
Well, we're coming to the last half an hour of our show because I do know that Vanessa needs to go to work soon.
Yeah, I had to go too.
But, you know, I do want to say on International Men's Day, with everything going on, everything's getting worse as far as feminism's control over the world and all of that, but that actually makes me hopeful. And let me say this. It's like the concept of an injured animal, that they're the most dangerous when they're injured. And that what we're seeing is the beginning to the end of this gynocentric world. Now, it could still take 100 years, but I think now is the time that we are starting to see the genesis where there can actually be equality between men and women. And that makes me very hopeful, especially for the fact that Trump won. When he was saying, oh, there's like a 90% chance that Hillary Clinton will win, and this country has shown that we're not against a woman being president. We just didn't want Hillary to be president.
Right?
Yeah, I would have loved to have Carly Fiorina instead.
I wouldn't, because she hates marijuana.
Well,
she said marijuana is worse than drinking a beer.
Well, that's
Chris
sad.
knows my take on Trump. You know, I was, you know, I voted for Gary Johnson because I'm a libertarian, but you know, never been a Hillary Clinton fan, never been a Democrat, never. Well, I did vote Democrat in my first election in my 20s. That's before I knew the actual history of the Democrat Party. But you know, I will give Trump the benefit of the doubt, and I do think in some ways it's gonna be better than Hillary being in there. However, I am concerned about feminists having their ideal boogeyman in office right now, and that increasing the donations to feminist groups, and now they're hyperactive, whereas before they were actually getting somewhat lazier. So hopefully, you know, they end up exposing themselves, and the public ends up standing up against them. That's my hope. But I think what's really going to turn the tide in terms of basically hurting the feminist rhetoric is the MGTOW movement, men going their own way. It's not necessarily so much a movement as it's just a reaction to a lot of the unrealistic expectations placed on men and boys in society, and frankly, younger men looking at everything and saying, "Nope, it's not worth it." You know, I'd much rather sit here with my porn and my blow-up doll and my video games, and you know, rub one out instead of killing myself for some entitled woman. You know, even though not all women are like that, there are some good women out there. You know, they're simply, you know, these younger guys, they're simply saying, you know, they don't feel it's worth it to the extent that our fathers and grandfathers felt that it was worth it, and that's gonna cause some concern, because young women, they want to date. You know, they want boyfriends and husbands, and so I think eventually the young women are going to be the ones that stand up to the feminists and say, you know, enough is enough. you know, you're ruining our chances for having a happy marriage and a happy family, because men are now saying that you know, we're part of the problem too, when in fact it's you that's the problem.
Well, you bring up the MGTOW movement. It's actually starting to see repercussions in Japan and Germany. There is serious concern that if people don't start marrying and having children, the population is going to rapidly decrease in a few generations. They're really getting concerned now.
That's coming here to the U.S. eventually too. It's just been a little bit slower here in the U.S., but that's going to be happening all across the Western world. The birth rate is slowing down a lot compared to, you know, 1970s and stuff like that. It has been slowing down. Right now, immigration is what's keeping up the population. But even in places like Mexico and South America, their birth rate is dropping too. Just not as fast as in the Western countries. But when they get here to the U.S., their birth rate drops off too. So, yeah, eventually, if they want to keep enough children being born to keep the economy growing, they're going to have to take a step back and say, okay, we got to bring something else to the table in order to make men want to come back into these communities and have children. But, you know, if the video games are as incredible as some of them are looking as far as the virtual reality and stuff like that, good luck with getting them to come to stop playing those video games and say, okay, yeah, I want to work myself to death again. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, the sex bots are coming out soon, and those are going to be affordable.
Yeah, they better really hope that those do not come out because, you know, you can kiss the birth rate goodbye.
They're already on the offensive about that one.
You could kiss, yeah, they are, and they're smart to be concerned about it. And also we have the male contraceptive methods coming out too. That's going to take a lot of control in terms of fertility away from women only, you know. So we're going to see some dramatic changes culturally in the coming decades, I think. And some of it is going to be positive, but I think it's going to have to get a little bit worse before it forces people to take a step back and say, okay, we need to re-examine our priorities.
Mm-hmm.
But in the interim, we are seeing some positive changes happening now. I mean, we talked about the domestic violence of men against women, that there are being more arrests, more convictions of that. And it's an increase of 200%, but I don't see that it's getting worse. I see that it's getting better because more men are coming forward about that. More women are getting arrested because of it.
Yeah, that might be across the board because, you know, arrests of women and girls have been going up.
Especially for false rape convictions.
Well, also for violent crime in general. The arrests for women and girls have been going up. And everyone was wondering, when are they going to start arresting these women and girls more? And I think we are finally starting to see that a little bit.
You guys are the ones all about the equal rights and stuff.
I can't get away with everything.
Can't rob that bank now.
Not anymore.
But yeah, that is positive. So hopefully that continues to increase, and you know, they do stop giving out the pussy pass.
Yeah.
What I mean, because I mean, if you have a girl or nieces or you know, little sisters and stuff like that, you want them to grow up in an environment where they're held equally accountable, so they can, because you know, young girls, that's what's keeping them from achieving on the level that men are. Mm-hmm. Them simply not being held as equally accountable as young men and boys are. Because I tell you what, man, the shit I went through in inner city and in the army and stuff like that. You know, I owe every fiber of my being to those experiences and who I ended up becoming. And, you know, they're robbing young women and girls of those experiences. And women and girls, they are innately just as good and just as capable as men of achieving on the level of men. But they just don't, they either don't know it yet or society simply does not expect that of them.
Well, I want to stop you there because I want to start closing up. And I want everyone to kind of give a small little thing about everything that we've discussed, or, you know, a final message for International Men's Day. But I want to actually start with Andrew and kind of ask you for something a little bit different. Like, just give a few minutes. You're very new to all of this. So
Yes, I am.
for everything that you've heard today, what are your thoughts?
Oh, man. Well, it's like Vanessa invited me to do this thing, and I did the Pink October thing, and I don't know anything that's being talked about, really. I'm actually back here, like, looking up definitions of words you guys are using in the background, trying to be all subtle and stuff, you know? But, you know, like, I didn't know that. I'm not a big social media person. I don't really look into stuff like this until I met her. I had really no idea that there was so much going on, like, with all of this stuff. And it's actually gotten really interesting. And it's all the stories you guys have been talking about. And it's actually kind of mind-boggling that this stuff has been happening. And just kind of, I've been oblivious to it for so long, really. And I don't know, now that I've just started thinking about it, it makes a lot more sense of, you know, what's been going on in the world and the media and stuff like that. And I don't know, just I'm curious and afraid and concerned, and like just gonna be happening in the future, and like what kind of crazy news stories are we going to be hearing about with all the, I mean, I don't know. It's just bitch.
Well, let me ask
and notice
you this.
I used bitch and not like man, you know.
Well, I
Let me
mean,
ask you
that
this.
was my experience when I first got into this information and first got exposed to this incredible group of people. It was just, I mean, it was a trip down the rabbit hole, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And for the first time in my life, I was like, wow, you know, this really makes sense. You know, it really explains the questions I had in the back of my mind all my life, you know. And it's liberating in a way, because once you figure out what's going on, you don't blame yourself as much, you know, because that's what men tend to do. We blame ourselves, and, you know, you should hold yourself accountable, but, you know, men blame themselves for things that are beyond their control.
Yeah.
And that's been the liberating aspect of it for me.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear another man say that and say they went through a similar experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, growing up was really interesting because, like I was saying earlier, my mom pulled me out of elementary school in second grade and just decided to start homeschooling us, me and my sister, who's 2 years younger than me, and that's all I was around all day, every day, was listening to them argue with each other, yell at each other, scream at each other because she wouldn't do her schoolwork. She'd steal the mushroom cans off the dresser or the counter when my mom was cooking dinner and run in her room and eat them, and my mom would be pissed off at her and yelling because she ate all the mushrooms she was going to use for her mushroom casserole.
Oh my god.
And I'm just sitting there like hearing all of this and like locking myself in my bedroom most of my life, just growing up with it. I'm not kidding. And then that's, I mean, comic books and, I mean, just superheroes is like my main outlet. I don't know.
I love superheroes as well.
Martial arts, like really another one of my big male role models is my Taekwondo masters, my instructors, because I did that for a really long time until I got diagnosed with epilepsy.
Oh, that's great.
It's been an interesting experience on its own, epilepsy. Yeah.
So let me turn this to Modern Medusa. What are your thoughts with all of this? Everything today, the movement?
I mean, I heard about a lot of the things that you listed on there already, you know, like throughout the year. And I heard a few of them that I didn't hear of before, but just I mean, now this stuff is just kind of reassuring that there is something wrong and that we are trying to, you know, fight against it, I guess, and spread awareness that these things are happening. Because, you know, before I got into this, I never heard about any of this stuff ever, you know, and unless we keep talking about it and spreading the word and shit, then, you know, nothing's gonna get changed. Nobody's gonna know what's going on. So
That's the truth.
I like hearing about these things, even though a lot of them are very horrible. It's just, you know, hear about them because it shows that people are, you know, learning about these situations, and I hope that we can do something about it.
Yeah, I've been wearing that meninist tank top that I wear in that Pink October video quite a bit lately.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to say was that I did a video I made it for October because Breast Cancer Awareness Month is all about boobs and females and sexuality, pretty much, and so that's another thing that I wanted to point out for International Men's Day, because men's diseases aren't really fucking taken care of as much as women's are. It's just sad.
And your video was the funniest thing I've ever saw and the saddest thing I ever saw. It's like I'm experiencing two completely separate emotions that are as opposite of each other at the same time. So
yeah.
I wish I'd had more time. It could have been so much better.
Oh, shut up. It was perfect.
No, it was good. I'm not going to lie, but it could have been so much.
We could do a sequel.
We should just make a movie.
Yeah.
All right, so Prentice had to go. He's said a lot today, so I'm sure he said a lot of his thoughts. Charles, would you like to give us your thoughts real quick?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. One is on the dominance of the culture by the chivalrous gynocentrism of the right and the feminist gynocentrism of the left. Yeah, it is really dominant, but the harder they push it, the more people are starting to notice, and that's something I think that we're seeing now. Both they're trying to push it harder, and that people are noticing and waking up to it. And another thing I wanted to say is that struggle makes people stronger. You can't really get strong unless you struggle to do it. You know, if you take a racehorse, no matter how good its breeding is, and it spends all of its time in the paddock and you never make it run, and then you say, oh well, this kind of racehorse never ends up on the track. You put it on the track, it's not going to do well. Women aren't going to get equal outcomes until they're sharing in the risks and struggle that men go through. And a related thought on Men's Day, maybe men can be glad for the struggle they go through, because that's why men are at the top of so many institutions as well as at the bottom of so many.
Mm-hmm.
Struggle is part of the game, and everything defines us who we are. And we can't take one piece out of the equation, because then we become unbalanced people. And that's what feminists have become. They're trying to get all the benefit without any of the responsibility or any of the consequences. They're trying to disassociate themselves with that, which men, we don't get that choice. We have to take on the consequences. We have to take on the responsibility of our actions. And for most of us, that makes us a very whole person. We still have our issues, everyone does, but that's what feminists need to do if they ever want to have true equality, is to take on those responsibilities. But I guess my final message for International Men's Day, it's like I was saying, I'm hopeful right now. We're starting to see change happen, and it's small, but it's important. And, you know, especially with the Red Pill movie coming out, I think that's going to be a very important movie of the 21st century. And, you know, we're still in the beginning half of it, but still, I think that's going to be such an important thing for our society as a whole. And, you know, we can now challenge feminists to say, hey, go watch this film. If you're so sure about your stance, go watch this film. You know, and we're starting to see art coming out of the men's movement. I mean, the Pink October video, one example. I'm working on my play, which I just released a sneak preview of my play that I'm working on. We're seeing a lot more people coming out and trying to do things, raise awareness, and show that we have a proper place in this society. So with International Men's Day, I just have a lot of hope that things are going to start getting better. It might take a while, but we're going in that direction. So,
yeah,
I thank my guests today. Andrew, of course, I thank you for coming on and hope that you come on in the future. Charles, it's been a great pleasure to have you on my show as well.
Thanks for having me on.
You know, you're always a great delight to talk to. You always make me laugh, and I love it when you prove me wrong. Honestly, I like to be proven wrong because then I get to learn. So, and of course, Prentice Reed, he's been on our show before, and hope that he is many times over. He is a great mind, and, you know, I always feel like he is the poster child of this movement, a strong, responsible man who doesn't take shit from anyone and gets the facts.
Fuck yeah.
And we need more of that. We need more people not just buying into things because it feels good, but actually getting out there and getting the facts. So, anyways, that's going to do it for me today. Join us next time, whenever that's going to be, probably next Thursday. And also, once again, Red Pill movie. Somewhere in the world is a showing. Find the nearest one and go see it. I'm told it's really good. Charles has seen it. I believe he was at the New York premiere. And I'm also having one in Philly for December. So I'm trying to sell a lot of tickets, but if you're in like New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Tennessee, I'm terrible at geography. I don't know what's surrounding Philadelphia. But if you're anywhere near Philly, come see the Red Pill movie, get your ticket so we can make this happen. And then we go to IHOP afterwards for pancakes. Who doesn't love pancakes?
I love pancakes.
I highly recommend the movie. And the pancakes.
Can we get
So you have 2 reasons to go. Well, Hannah Wallen's going to be there. So 3 reasons, and I'll be there. So 5 reasons. I count myself twice. Anyways, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone in chat. It was great reading through all of that. And this is Mad Cat signing off.